Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, it's Friday night, Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. Tonight is episode 66. We are going to kick things off with Name That Stadium, like we always do. Then we're going to cover some of the news from this past week. After that, we're going to provide our Week 6 power rankings and game picks. And last but not least, we're going to do Question of the Week. With all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
It's going good, man. It's going good. I think 15-minute delay on the start, not too bad. It seems like lately we've been a little more off than that.
Yeah, very
So,
true.
that's not too shabby. Not too shabby. All right, so let's do Name That Stadium, man. This is the part of the show for anybody who's watching. As you can see, James is out there traveling the country. Every week he's got a different stadium in his background. Since we're in the regular season, it is typically a stadium where a game is being played. And so if you think you know what stadium is behind him tonight, we're asking, throw your answer in our comments section. If you're the first person to get it right, we'll give you a special shout out next week's show. Hey, maybe one day this thing will make us a little bit of loot and we can get you some swag, that kind of stuff. But right now, it's we're dirt poor. So James, why don't you tell us where you were at last week, man?
Last week I was in Kansas City. Buffalo, Kansas City. I thought it was going to be the game of the week. It was what I thought was an enticing matchup. And I mean, I have a lot of concerns about Kansas City after that game, but I still thought it was a great game.
So I agree with you that there's a lot to be concerned with in Kansas City because what they're 2-3 right now,
Yeah, I think that's it.
and you know, I guess I was just so freaking impressed with Buffalo. Like, I mean, honestly, their defense was like one of the top units so far throughout the year, and I thought this was going to be a good test for them. And I mean, they kept Kansas City to 20 points. I think that's a win for the defense. Um, Man, I think Buffalo, in my opinion, they're looking like a team to be reckoned with, man. Possibly the top team out there right now.
Yeah, well, if you remember the beginning of the season, they were my AFC champion.
So you were spot on so far. So far,
So
so
far,
good. Yeah.
yeah, but
Barring,
I'm starting to like the Chargers a little better the more I see them. But
yeah, the Chargers are looking damn good too. But I think Buffalo's got the defense,
true.
you know, and the Chargers defense could get there. Staley could whip them into shape as the season goes on. I think they're a little bit weak at linebacker, but um, you know, we'll see what happens. I thought it was a good game. Buffalo kicks some ass, man.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move it on here. Let's do a recap of the past week. And so the first thing I wanted to start with was Zach Ertz. Finally, this dude has been traded out of Philly. He's going to Arizona. In exchange, Philly's going to get rookie cornerback Tay Gowan and a fifth round pick. And so, I don't know about you, man, but I'm pretty pumped up to see what he adds to that offense, which is already freaking electric this year.
Yeah. I'm interested what to see. It's time is a little weird for me, but especially with what's his face, Goddard on the COVID list this week. So it's a little bit odd timing for me for the trade, but hey, you got to make the deal when the deal's there.
Exactly. And I mean, we're creeping up on the trade deadline, right? And so it just kind of, they probably thought, hey, he's not going to be a long-term guy for us. We finally got something. Let's just take it. And I like that they got a player in the mix. It's like, okay, this is a guy, rookie cornerback. It's like they're basically saying, hey, we're going to take some time to develop this guy and see what happens, and maybe it ends up being a good trade for them. But Ertz, he wasn't really doing anything. I mean, that offense, the way it was running this year, it's all about Hurts, not Ertz. And so,
Mhm.
you know, I think it's a good move for him going to Arizona. I think that's a good place for him to land in this trade. They needed a tight end. They got all sorts of other weapons, and so it's just like, man, that's just the rich getting richer on offense out there in Arizona.
Yeah, really. I mean, that team. Hey, and they're playing well too, so can't really knock them for what they've done in the offseason and just adding those pieces that they think are going to fit, and they seem to work out well so far. So this should be interesting to see what happens.
Definitely, definitely. And so I guess connected to Arizona, they are playing the Browns this weekend, which I saw Nick Chubb has been ruled out. Looks like he's dealing with a calf injury. I think, you know, thankfully for Cleveland, they've got some ridiculous depth at running back. Kareem Hunt will step in, basically be their workhorse this weekend, and so um, that helps them. I think that with that matchup, they would prefer to have both those guys, but it should still be a good game nonetheless.
Yeah, it should be a good game. I'm interested to watch that game and see how Arizona deals with that defense, but we'll get a little bit into that in the picks.
Sure, yeah, we'll save it for later. Okay, so next up, Tua. It's Tua time again. He's going to be starting this weekend in London against the Jags. Um, you know, I mean, I get it. Miami only won one game so far this year. I thought Brissett was actually playing pretty good in his absence, but the record's the record. I think that that whole team is just struggling in like every which way they could this year. I mean, I think it's nice he gets a soft matchup against the Jags. Man, I hope we see something more than what we saw at the start of the year because I was not impressed with his play.
Yeah, I it's looking more and more like a mistake drafting him. I mean they could have drafted Herbert and look at what Herbert's doing, but then again,
Yeah,
is it the situation? Is it the offense? There's a lot of rumors out there that what's his face, the coach, Flores
yeah.
has lost the locker room basically and stuff
Oh
like that.
man.
So it's not looking good down there.
Okay. Yeah, and that's pretty wild because man, they were loving him last year, but I guess it can flip that fast.
Yeah.
And I mean, all I could think of earlier as I was going through some of this was, all right, man, maybe the Watson thing's back on the table for these guys because I don't think Tua's really showing them much.
No, he's not showing him much. I think honestly, if and it a lot of things depend on where we are for at the trade deadline. I can see two teams possibly going out and trying to trade for Watson, but I could see Philadelphia depending on where we are. Like if Philly is because Philly has Miami's first round pick next year and possibly Indianapolis's first round pick next year. So if it's looking like those are top 10 picks around the trade deadline, I don't know if Philly would really go out and trade for Watson.
Yeah,
So, but then again, in Miami trading for it could affect that, and Indy could play around and not play Wentz if it's looking like they're not going to make the playoffs to not get that 75% or 80% or whatever the level is to convert the second round pick to the first round pick.
yeah.
So there's a couple interesting things that could happen there, but it's Philly and Miami if he's going to be traded.
Okay. All right. Well, in other quarterback news, Russell Wilson injured a finger on his throwing hand. Looks like it was bad enough to require some surgery, and they're saying he could be out for up to 6 games. I think he's already commented that he's going to try and be back sooner, but I did see the team put him on IR, so he's going to miss at least 3, and then they'll go from there. Geno Smith is going to be getting the start in his absence, which, man, it just kind of like seems strange to me. I heard some dude on NFL Network, and I'm drawing a blank on who it was, but saying that he claimed Geno Smith was the best backup quarterback in the league, and I don't know. I guess I'd have maybe we'll evaluate backup quarterbacks one of these weeks, but um, I did see Gino hasn't had a start in 4 years, but he has been in the league for a long time. He's a seasoned vet. I do think that when you're talking about losing a guy like Russell Wilson, you want to have somebody like sort of in that mold available. It gives them a decent shot, but it's still a backup quarterback. And so, you got to be careful with your expectations.
Yeah, so with Wilson, they also placed Chris Carson on the IR, and from what I'm reading, the earliest they can return is week 10.
Okay.
So it'd be a minimum of 4 weeks or four
Gotcha.
games.
Okay.
And that might have to do with the timing, like if it was earlier in the week or whatever. But yeah, so the earliest that they can return is week 10. I just, I was kind of a little bit down on Seattle coming into this year with everything that went on in the offseason. And I really still think that Russell Wilson is working his way out of Seattle.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not knocking his injury because what I'm hearing is he tore ligaments or something in his finger. That's how bad
Yeah.
it was. So,
Well,
I mean, yeah, he's injured, but
working his way out and maybe into Detroit. Probably not.
uh,
Probably not. But, a man can
I,
dream.
yeah, yeah, a man can dream.
We'd have,
He's gonna go to Green Bay after Rodgers says "fuck you" to Green Bay at the end of the season. But
that'd be
and
pretty intense.
yeah, and continue the Lions' misery of having the fucking Packers with a dominant quarterback.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 'cause he'd have Devontae Adams there, so there's some appeal. I mean, Detroit, there's nobody. So unless we
Yeah,
hit the
well,
jack,
maybe Devontae Adams.
well, yeah, I guess that's true. That's a maybe. But Detroit, there's nothing. So
Yeah.
it's not a very attractive place. Okay, so my last piece of news, which is really the biggest, and I just saved it for the end just because that's just the way it worked out. But, John Gruden, man, what the fuck is going on there? Um, I mean, I'm sure you've heard all the millions of stories about it, but basically, the league is part of, and I'm a little bit confused by some of this, but I guess as part of their investigation with the Washington football team and, some of the allegations that were made about that organization and their front office, yada, 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 somehow they came across these emails from John Gruden, uh, highly inappropriate racial comments. I think some of them were like homophobic comments. And,
Hmm.
you know, it, like I heard a lot of them were old, like 10 years old. And I don't know if any of them were recent or if they were all that old. And the age doesn't matter. I mean, I guess I say that because, there was a time where, you could say different things and people weren't as sensitive about them. It doesn't mean it was ever okay to say those things, but I think right now everything is a lot more intense and under the microscope than it was 10 years ago necessarily. Doesn't make it okay. I'm not trying to defend the guy. I'm just freaking blown away that a dude like Gruden would have gotten involved in something like this and been saying things like that, knowing that he's basically a public figure, man. I mean, he's always in the spotlight, and it's just a bummer. It's a bummer, man. I've liked Gruden for a long time, and he obviously abruptly resigned as soon as all this stuff came out, which I think that's in this kind of a situation that's like the graceful thing to do because otherwise you're going to force the team to fire you potentially, and it just yeah, I'm just shocked, man. I don't know. What have you been hearing?
So it wasn't the league's investigation. Apparently, because of like all the shit that was going on in Washington, they hired an outside firm to investigate. Like there was a lot of allegations of what was going on, and just to investigate the allegations and figure out what was going on. And apparently, those investigators that were investigating and they were being paid by the Washington football team came across these emails from Gruden, and it's like they were like contacted the league and sent them to the league and said, we came across this that's not part of our investigation, but it's of note for you for other things. And the emails apparently spanned from like 2010 to 2018 where he was saying all this shit.
Okay, so yeah, definitely some more recent stuff than what I had heard. Yeah.
Yeah, and like stuff like that. Well, I'm not gonna say the
Yeah.
words, but it's like Goodell's F word because he's
Oh.
and he's pussifying the sport and stuff like that, and pushback commenting on like hiring women officials and like how they can't, like complaining about Goodell getting rid of the concussion or trying to limit the concussions for players, and like even going as far as Goodell pressuring Jeff Fisher to what was his name? They got the openly gay guy that was drafted from like Notre Dame or something, Sam from
Oh
Missouri,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and he was drafted by the Rams when they were in St. Louis, and it was like Gruden alleged in emails that Goodell was pressured
Jeff Fisher to draft that
Jeff
guy.
Fisher to draft I don't, I'm not going to say it, a Q word and stuff
Oh,
like that.
okay.
And it was like some of the stuff I was reading, it was really bad. And then on top of that, he was sending and back and forth with the president or GM or whoever Bruce Allen was with Washington, um, pictures of like naked women and including Washington football team cheerleaders topless.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So I mean,
So
it was.
yeah, it's like it almost reminds me a little bit of like the inappropriate stuff that was going on with Trump when he was running for president, and then even while he was president and stuff coming out, and I think he made a comment about, oh, it's locker room talk or something, and his way of downplaying it. It's just an old school mentality that you just that stuff just does not fly, man. It does not
Yeah,
fly.
exactly. And apparently there's like total the league was sent 650,000 emails that were outside of the scope of the investigation in Washington, but of note. And the league's just come basically saying, "Oh, there's nobody else implicated in them." It's like, come on,
Yeah,
why
that's
would you
that's
get
suspicious.
650,000 emails? Not all of them are from Gruden.
No, you know that. I mean, it's like anything. It's that there's a lot of other people that were doing bad things. Gruden is the guy that got picked out of the bunch, and maybe there will be more to come. But there's
Hmm.
no way he's the only one when you're talking that volume of emails, man. No way.
Yeah. There's no way. But where I have the issue, and I have the issue with Mark Davis, is because he, the Raiders were sent the emails last week on like Thursday or Friday, and he didn't do anything about them until the New York Times somehow got a hold of some of the emails and was able to review a portion of the emails that
Yeah,
dealt with Gruden and some of these things that were said. And it's like so you let him coach on Monday, hoping, oh well, it'll kind of fly under the radar. Yeah, he said this, but it's like you have all this other shit on him. They should have talked to him, at least put him on administrative leave for the game
yeah,
for the game on Sunday that
yeah,
they allowed him to coach.
yeah. It's all pending investigation. It's
Yeah,
like, hey, we got this information. We're taking it seriously. He's out pending investigation, and we'll get back to you as we have time to go through it. And yeah, that's unfortunate that it wasn't handled better from the organization side. I don't know, man. It sucks. I'm just bummed out. A guy that I've
yeah,
liked and looked up to in ways. Doing this, it's like, damn, man, that's a shame. It's just you'd like to think that some of these guys are better than that, and he just seemed like a stand-up guy for a long time, and then you find out there's another side to him, and it's like, yep, that's a bummer.
yeah. And the other thing I had heard was like the league sent the emails to the Raiders because the league technically couldn't do anything about it because he was not employed by the league at the time these emails were sent.
Okay.
so they couldn't suspend him or do anything. But the league sent them for the Raiders to address it, and the league got impatient because the Raiders weren't addressing it. So they started putting pressure on Davis to, you got to address this,
Okay.
and then and then it just came out that Gruden stepped down, and I'm sure they probably worked some kind of buyout because if Davis fired him, he would have owed him $60 million. So there's probably some sort of buyout involved with him resigning.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, some kind of settlement. Make it go away. Um,
Yeah.
all right. Well, enough of that, man. It's crappy stuff, but it happens. We had to talk about it. Anything else newsworthy that you picked up from this past week, or you know?
I think we hit everything. Yeah, I think that was it.
Cool. Let's move on. We don't need to go scraping the bottom of the barrel. Let's get to our week 6 power rankings. And so, James, I will let you kick it off, man. Give me 1 through 5.
All right, so there's only one change in my 1 through 5. I got the Chargers still at number one. I bumped them up because the Rams lost, and I mean the Chargers are just being that dominant team. It looks like the old mantra, same old Chargers, doesn't apply to them this
Mm-hmm.
year. It's like they're winning the games, they're not collapsing. Like this past week against Cleveland, I don't know how much of the game you saw, but like okay, so they scored, they didn't get the 2 point, and then Cleveland went down and scored, and then the Chargers went down and scored. So it was like they they have that mentality where they're not giving up and they're not collapsing on these games.
Yeah.
At, at number two, I have the Rams. I mean, they won this past week. They beat Seattle, which is in division, which are always tough games. So I left them at number two. Where my changes is number 3 and 4, and I bumped Buffalo up one spot and bumped Tampa down one spot. And it's not a reflection of how Tampa's playing because I think Tampa's playing really good. It's
Yeah,
just
and
when I watch
they blew out Miami last week too. But yeah, I got you.
it's just how when I watch Buffalo playing, they just look like the better team. So
Yeah.
I put Buffalo at 3, Tampa at 4.
Okay.
And then I left Green Bay at 5. They won this week. There's maybe a little bit of mix up coming next week as like if depending on what happens in a couple games. But right now I have Green Bay at 5.
Gotcha. So yeah, on my side, I still got Arizona at the top. It wasn't a dominant win by any means over San Francisco this past week, but it was a win nonetheless. And so, sometimes, like you mentioned, those divisional games, they're a lot tighter than you think. I was all giddy about them, and I moved them up there. I'm going to keep them there for the moment. At 2, I've got the Rams. Kind of the same thing as you. It's a status quo thing where they got the win. They're going to stay where they're at for now, and we're just going to let it keep riding. At 3, I got Tampa Bay, same as where they were last week. And I like that it was a dominant win over Miami. And so, Brady lit it the frick up. And so I just thought, okay, based on that week, I'm comfortable keeping him there. But at 4, I got Buffalo, same as the week before. And it just, all these guys won. And so I was like, man, I really want to start moving Buffalo up there. But I'm going to wait. It's going to happen organically. And if it doesn't, then I'll be a little bit more aggressive in adjusting my rankings. But man, yeah, Buffalo looks good. And then at 5, I've got the Chargers. I moved them up 4 spots. I know you like way beat me to the punch on the Chargers. I told you I needed to see a little bit more before I got on the bandwagon. I'm there. They beat Kansas City, they beat Cleveland. Both those guys I've had up really high in my rankings. Obviously, at this point, they got to be above them. So that rounds out my top 5, man.
Yeah, an interesting thing about Brady's performance against Miami last week. Apparently, that was his first game where he threw for more than 400 yards and had 5 or more TDs
I heard that,
in
man.
his
Yeah, that's pretty
career. It's like
wild.
some ridiculous number of games. That was his first one. It's like, how is that possible? Like, you figured the year he set the record, he would have done something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, they were scoring touchdowns. They didn't need all the yards,
yeah, I guess not.
you know. All right, man. Give me 6 through 10.
All right, at six, I have Arizona. I bumped them up one spot. Um, this is more of a I like how they're playing, but also I didn't like what I saw out of Cleveland against the Chargers. That defense. I mean, the for the Browns, I had them at 6 and last week, and I dropped them down 2 spots to 8 because I thought that defense looked shaky. They allowed, what was it,
Yeah,
45 or
yeah,
whatever,
40
however
something
many points.
points. Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
lot.
40,
Yeah.
47
Okay.
points against the Chargers. Yeah, I know Herbert's good, but like the high bulk of those points were in the fourth quarter, and defense looked gassed, and I don't know what's going on there. So I kind of dropped them down because I'm hesitant on Cleveland. So Arizona moved up to 6, and Dallas moved up to 7,
Okay.
and then at 9 and 10, I left those the same. Yeah, Kansas City lost, but Kansas City lost um
Yeah.
to the
One of your top
Chargers,
teams. Yeah.
one of my top teams. Who did they lose to? Was it
Buffalo.
the Buffalo? Yeah, they lost to Buffalo. It was the week before
Yeah.
they lost to the Chargers, and then
Two
Cincinnati.
of your top teams. Two of your top teams.
Exactly. And then Cincinnati, I left them the same because look, they played Green Bay. It's a that's top 5 team. And they played them tough. It was
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
overtime win. No kicker could make a field goal, which is
Yeah.
why it was Green Bay finally got it after like the 4th missed field goal in a row or 5th missed field goal in a row that to win the game. So and then Green Bay but they played Green Bay tough and they were right in there. So I didn't feel comfortable really dropping them off that loss because I have Green Bay so much higher than them.
I got you. Yeah, and kind of like with the Chargers, you're definitely ahead of me with the Bengals. I have seen a lot that makes me believe that they're a lot better than what I was thinking going into the season. And I'm going to start creeping them up there. I'm doing that a little bit tonight, but I'm not in this range yet. For me, at 6, I got Dallas. I popped them up 2 spots. Um, I kept thinking that my Dallas stuff was a little bit aggressive, but I like that you're keeping them kind of in that same range as me. And, it's when I look at the teams around them on my board, I just feel more comfortable with them and just how potent their offense has been. And their defense has shown a lot of potential this year. And so I like them at 6 right now. At 7, I got the Chiefs. That loss to Buffalo, it was not a good way to lose, but it's not the end of the world. They're 2 and 3, with a couple of those losses being against Buffalo and the Chargers, like you mentioned. You know, those are tough games for anybody, man. And then at 8, I got the Browns. I dropped those guys 2 spots. I think they're still playing good football, but they lost that close one to the Chargers. And, with them now losing to the Chargers and the Chiefs, it just felt appropriate. Hey, you got to be lower than both those guys on the list here. At 9, I got the Packers. They're down 2 spots. And, kind of a dick move moving them down on a win. I have the Bengals so much further down, and the way that that game went with those missed kicks and honestly, I thought it was just a sloppy game for Green Bay altogether. I was expecting a more handedly win over the Bengals, and so I just said, hey, fuck it, I'm going to drop them a couple. And then at 10, I got Baltimore. I just thought it was a solid win over Indy, and it puts them at 4-1, and so I know I smoked them on my board earlier in the year, and I brought them back up, and it's just like the freaking the bullwhip effect with Baltimore, but they're showing enough that they're still a solid team, and so keeping them in my top 10, I'm comfortable with that for now. All right,
Makes
back to you
sense.
at 11, man.
All right, at 11, I have San Francisco. I left San Francisco at 11. Again, it's one of those. It's a division game. It's a close game. They lost to Arizona. I thought they were going to win, but I didn't really want to smoke them yet. I have some concerns with now Trey Lance is injured and his status and stuff like that. But I mean, we'll see what happens after this week where they're going to go. I moved Baltimore up 3 spots to number 12. I'm hit and miss on Baltimore. Like I see so many flaws in this team, and then they have a dominant performance, or they have like okay, so the running game, the running back, whoever's running back for them doesn't matter, and they can still win those games. At 13, I have the Colts. I dropped them down 1 spot. Look, I expected them to beat Baltimore, And this is probably the start to the fall of the Colts. They're probably going to start plummeting if they don't play better on my board. I couldn't quite put them behind the next couple teams, so it's just for now it's just one spot, and we'll see what happens. Because at 14 I have the Saints, who I moved up 3 spots. I need to see more consistency of the Saints to move them up higher. I think they have
Yeah.
the talent there. It's just they're a little bit inconsistent. And then at 15, I have the Titans, and this is probably my biggest jump up from last week. And I moved them up 5 spots. I I don't really know what to say about the Titans. I
No.
really don't. I really don't know. It's like this team looks like shit one week, and then the next week they have a dominant performance. Yeah, but it was against the Jags. But it's like I just don't know. I don't know who the
I'm
true
with you.
team is.
Yeah, I'm with you. And we'll just take it right there because I got Tennessee at my 11th spot. I moved them up 2 picks, and really I moved them up, and I'm just like, what is going on here? Uh, well, Russell Wilson got hurt, so I dropped the Seahawks. The real Raiders are kind of coming out now. They lost to Chicago. It's like, okay, so I dropped them down my board, and I look at some of the other teams in this range, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. I guess Tennessee looks pretty good compared to some of these guys, or at least on paper. And so, but yeah, one week I feel good about them. The next I'm just like, what the heck? And so, yeah, but I got them at 11. 12, I got the Saints. I moved them up 3 spots. Um, the Saints are kind of similar to the Titans, where it's like one week I'm like, man, they look pretty good. And then the next week I'm just like, what the frick was that? And so right now they look good. And so I bumped them up 3. Next week I'll probably drop them down 3. We'll see what happens. And then at 13 I got Seattle. I took them down 3 spots, and I'm expecting them to keep falling without Russell Wilson. This is just a start. Like, hey, if Geno Smith is that good as a backup, let's see what happens. And that way I'm not totally annihilating him on the board in case they can keep it afloat until he's back. But I would bet that they're going to just kind of consistently fall each week on my board until he's back in action. At 14, I got the Colts. I kept them where they were at last week. They lost to the Ravens, but I thought it was a good game against a good opponent. And looking at all the other teams in this range, I'm comfortable with them there at 14. And then at 15, I got the Raiders. I dropped them down 3 spots. Um, all the Gruden stuff aside, having them at 15 on my board is something I'm a lot more comfortable with than, them pushing that top 10 like they had been on my board. Um, and they've still had some good wins, but now I think their season is at a pivotal point with Gruden no longer being there. What are we going to get? I don't think anybody really knows. And so, but I think the loss against Chicago, that was kind of a sign. The real Raiders are kind of coming through. Maybe they outperformed in a few of those games, surprised some people, and it could be on the decline from here.
That makes sense with the Raiders. I have them at 17. I dropped them 3 spots. At 16, I have the Washington football team. Washington's a frustrating team because
Yeah.
statistically they have a bottom tier defense. On paper, that should be a top tier defense.
Yeah.
And I don't know what is really going on there. And plus, they don't have a real quarterback.
Well,
So
when does Fitzpatrick come back?
I week 10, week 9, something like that.
Oh, it's still a ways away. All right.
Yeah, I want to say it's another couple weeks away for them. And you hit all the points in the Raiders. And plus, like one thing with the Raiders that one little pushback on them being so low is without Gruden there and without Carr having to constantly defend on the relationship with Gruden and this and that, and is he the quarterback? Is he Gruden's guy? And this and
Yeah.
that. Carr might play better, and
That's true.
which is a surprise because Carr's had a solid season, but he's had mistakes here and there that he might eliminate if he doesn't feel that pressure. Plus, Plus, what went on with Gruden might galvanize the team. So they could 17 could be a little low, but we'll see what goes from there. Seattle, I'd killed them a number of weeks ago, and then I kind of moved them up a little bit, and then now I'm moving them back down to 18, 2 spots. I've been down on Seattle this whole year. I don't like how the defense is playing. I don't like how the offense. I didn't like how Russ was playing before the injury, and with Geno Smith, I mean that's just even more proof that, or with Geno Smith, it's even more reason to have them lower half of the league.
Okay.
19, I have New England. I bumped them up 2 spots. I know you can say they beat a team that I have in like the very, very bottom of the league, or very, very bottom, but I kind of moved a couple teams down that were ahead of New England, and that's where they ended up at 19. And then at 20, I moved Chicago up 3 spots. It's kind of a function of I was moving them up 1 spot, and then for beating the Raiders, and then I kind of moved them up a couple more spots because a couple teams fell behind them based on how they played this past week.
I got you. Yeah, you've had some good board action. I got you. Okay, so for me at 16, I got San Fran. I pushed them up 2 spots. I thought, holding Arizona to 17 points and keeping the game within a score was a win, even though obviously it was actually a loss. Yeah, the quarterback situation for them, dicey is frick right now, and we'll see what that means for this team. Hopefully they can make up for it in some other ways. 17, I got Cincinnati. I pushed them up 3 spots. I did like that they hung in there with Green Bay. I'm finally giving them a little bit of love. Maybe not enough, but it can keep going from here. 18, I got Carolina. I dropped them down just by 1 spot. It was a surprising loss to Philly, but I still think they've been playing really well this year, especially on defense. And, any given Sunday, man, sometimes you just lose them. 19, I got Pittsburgh. I pushed them up 2 spots. The win, I think, warrants a bump, but I'm trying to not get carried away because they're still for sure in my doghouse. And, flirting with that, 20 range, I think that kind of reflects that. And then at 20, I got Denver. I pulled them down 4 spots. I know that they had a little bit of magic at the end of that game, kind of like made it look like they could come back, and then it fell apart. I will say I was a little bit disappointed. I was expecting a lot more out of Teddy Bridgewater being cleared from that concussion. I thought, man, this should be a really good game, and it just I think it just goes to show, he's not like in that elite category of quarterbacks by any means. He's a game manager, and he requires a lot of stuff to go right around him, and it just didn't happen in that game. So that's my top 20, man. Give me 21.
All right, 21, I have Carolina. I dropped them down 2 spots. So the concern I have with Carolina is, yeah, they've been playing good this year, but this past week we kind of saw the Jets version of Sam Darnold, not what he'd shown in at the beginning of the year. So my concern is which one's the real Sam Darnold,
Yeah.
and was it a fluke occurrence, or is it something that we should be more concerned about? At 22, I have Denver. I dropped them down 4 spots. I want to be really high on Denver, but they don't have a quarterback. And I've said this so many times. Denver's a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender. And they showed it again this past week. If they had a quarterback, they would have won that game. I mean, they were playing the freaking Pittsburgh Steelers, who I have I had them at like 30 last week. So the Steelers are a terrible team this year, and Denver lost to them. At 23, I have the Giants. I dropped them down 1 spot. And the thing with the Giants was, I mean, they got blown out by Dallas. You expect, we've said it many times, you expect the divisional games to be close, not a 3-touchdown or 4-score game. Yeah, 3 touchdowns, 8, 16, 24. Yeah, 3 touchdowns, 2 2-point conversions game. So I dropped them down 1 spot. I don't think they're worse than the teams I have behind them, but I think it's close to it. At 24, I have the Vikings. They moved up 2 spots. I I just kind of was correcting my mistake of thinking they were worse than Detroit here, and it ended up being a two-spot jump with the teams that lost that I didn't think should have lost, that I really killed, and also based on how they're playing. At 25, yeah, Pittsburgh broke my top 25
Oh
finally.
boy. Oh boy.
They moved up 4 spots. This is more of a function of two. It's probably like a two-spot jump. It's two-spot jump plus two teams drop down below them.
Okay.
So that's where that is. I don't think they're a top 25 team in the league. It's just how they fell this week.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, so for me over at 21, I've got the Vikings. I dropped them down 2 spots. Maybe not fair after a win, but the realistic situation is that they almost lost to the Lions, and so I wasn't as confident with where I had them on the board, so I dropped them a little bit. At 22, I got the Patriots. I kept them where they were at. I know they beat Houston, but it was a close game. I mean, they actually were behind at one point and they came back, and so that made me a little bit concerned. But I mean, either way, I'm kind of I'm keeping them where they were. 23, I got the Bears. I pushed these guys up 1 spot, and I actually when I did it, it kind of like it looked good on my board to me, and I think there was something about hey, the Patriots. They got their rookie quarterback. They got what's supposed to be a better defense. And then you got the Bears, same thing now. Rookie quarterback, supposed to be a much better defense. Chicago's defense is playing much better. And it just was like, okay, those are very similar, like conceptually in those kind of ways. And so I like kind of having them on my board right by each other. At 24, I got Philly. I pushed them up 2 spots. I thought it was a good win. Um, I'm still just a little bit, I think, surprised by the production that they've had this year. And it's like I'm waiting for the bottom to fall out. And so, I think, some people could make the argument to have them higher. I'm just not there, and I don't know if I will get there. At 25, I got Washington. This is tough, man. You know how high I was on Washington earlier in the year. Um, and they did put up 22 points last week, so it wasn't a horrible loss. It's just that their defense, like you mentioned, it's like night and day from last year. Like, what the heck happened to these guys? Because their offense, even with Heineke, their offense is actually doing okay. I mean, it's not like they're god awful or anything. It's just the defense isn't freaking holding anybody, man. And so it's just tough. I was really looking forward to seeing Washington do better than this, and it's just not happening, man. So back to you, 26.
All right, 26. I have the Eagles. I bumped them up 1 spot. I don't. It's This is more of a they actually probably would have fallen if other teams wouldn't have fallen that were I had ahead of them, and so or they would have stayed. Yeah, because I had two teams that were ahead of them that fell behind them, so they would have fallen 1 spot, but instead they move up 1 spot, type of thing. I had 27. Oh, because the game, I think it was more of Sam Darnold had an off game. That's why Philly won versus them had playing a good game. But then again, they played tough against Tampa, so I don't know. Next week they might go up another spot. We'll see. At 27, I have Atlanta. Atlanta moved up 3 spots. They moved up. I had them below the Jets. Now I was moving them ahead of the Jets, and then I killed 28 the teams that I have at 28 and 29. I kind of killed them this week from what I'm
Yeah,
seeing, and so that's Atlanta ended up 3 spots, even though they just only beat the Jets. It's just kind of how it fell.
yeah,
28, I have the fucking Lions. Interesting stat about the Lions is they are the only team to lose by a field goal of twice, lose two games by a field goal of 50 yards or more with no time remaining on the clock in a season. And we're, what, 5 weeks in?
yeah. Yeah, it
Plus, if you
sucks.
look at the scores, didn't they lose to Baltimore 19-17 also?
Yeah. Uh, that sounds right. Yeah.
I think it was like so. It's like what the fuck? But with all that said, I love the aggressiveness of Campbell going for two with
Oh,
to,
yeah.
to take the league. I love that aggressiveness. Um, yep, they lost 19-17 to Baltimore as well.
Gotcha.
So by identical scores also. Uh, but yeah, I love the aggressiveness. I love what I'm seeing in the fight on the team, but they just don't have the talent.
Yeah, they needed a win in a bad way.
Yeah, and who knows? So,
All right.
that's not gonna happen. At 29, I have Miami. I dropped them down 4 spots. I just what I'm hearing coming out of Miami with how Flores has lost the locker room and stuff like that, that concerns me.
Yeah.
So I kind of killed them a little bit. It was a good time to kill them because this was basically their second no-show game of the season, and it just kind of felt like the right time to kill them. And then at 30, I have the Jets. They dropped down 1 spot. This was I had Atlanta at 30 and the Jets at 29 last week. And so obviously I had moved Atlanta above the Jets because Atlanta beat the Jets. And that's why the Jets are at 30.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So for me at 26, I got Atlanta. I pushed them up 2 spots, even though they beat a bottom feeder team, like you mentioned. It's just that everybody else in this range pretty much lost. And so they got the benefit of that. 27, I got the Dolphins. I dropped them down by 2. I think we've covered it pretty well. They've been a disappointment, and it is what it is. 28, I got the Giants. I dropped them down 1 spot. They lost to a strong Dallas team, and so it wasn't like I had to kill them on the board, but they're already so low, there wasn't really that far for them to go. And then really 29 and 30, I got the Lions and the Jets respectively. It's a status quo thing, man. They continue to lose, but the guys behind them continue to lose, and so they're just kind of in gridlock at the bottom of the board.
Makes
Dumpster
sense.
fire time.
Dumpster fire time. 31, Houston, status quo. Houston beat Jacksonville. Jacksonville's at 32.
Ditto. I'm the exact same. I got nothing else to add to that. Okay, so that's the week 6 power rankings. Let's kick it over to our week 6 game picks and just do a little bit of recap. Here's where we're at season to date. James, you're sitting at 47 wins, which is good for 58%. And I am sitting at 52 wins, which is good for 64%. This past week, man, we had a lot of action, and it just ended up being a big swing in my favor. I think I went from being down 1 game to being up 5, and so that's probably the most drastic swing we've had since we started doing this last year. But there's still a lot of season to go, and just looking at the win percentage, I'm kind of like hovering around where we finished last year, sort of like that 65, 66% range, whatever. You're a little bit lower, but I think the expectation is you're going to creep back up and tighten things unless you get like crazy aggressive and then who the heck knows which way it's going to go. So,
Yeah, last week I had an aggressive week and it came back to bite me in the ass. I mean, I the games that we differed on, it was teams were right there except for like one or two of them. It was just like I just got a little bit aggressive on it,
you went
and
for it.
I went for it. I saw them as close as almost coin flip games, so I went for upsets.
I got you. You were going for the action, man. Nothing wrong with that. And, if you're going to be down by a handful of games, this is the time to do it where we still got freaking a ton of season to go. So, I'm sure you'll close the gap and we'll probably switch leads a few times before we get to the end yet. So, but all right, so let's get to the games for this week. And we'll just start with last night. We had Tampa Bay at Philadelphia. Both of us picked Tampa Bay. I've not gone back to check, but my gut's just telling me we've been winning a lot of our Thursday night games, which is nice. starting the week with those wins. Um, you know, and I mean, I got to watch some of the game, not a lot of the game. Brady just looks insane, man. Like he
Hmm.
just, it's like as soon as he snaps the ball and drops back, he just knew every single play where to throw the ball. There was no hesitation, no issues. And then I will say this: I liked seeing some of those like little bubble screens that they used to do in New England all the time. We started seeing some of those last night, and they're just like wildly effective, man. I mean, it just when you get wide receivers to buy into that, where hey, you got to block, and you'll get yours, but just wait till we call your number. Uh, Man, it's impressive. And then, I have heard a lot of Leonard Fournette's name since last night, and I think people are looking at him as, he was a super high draft pick for the Jags, didn't work out. They picked him up, easy peasy, no big deal. And, they win the Super Bowl, and now he's back, and he's just like, I think he's finally secured into a starting role with that team. That Ronald Jones got in a little bit, but Fournette was getting all the action, really, man.
Yeah. So I went back. I just did a quick look at it, and so far we haven't gotten a Thursday night game wrong.
Dude, that's sweet, man. It just feels good starting the week with a win. And so I like that. Okay, so all right, next up, we'll go to Sunday and let's start making picks now. We got Miami at Jacksonville. Who do you like in that game? And so
This
it's in
game.
London. It's in London. I know it's supposed at Jacksonville, but it's at Jacksonville in London. So I guess I just need to clarify that.
So this game concerns me a little bit. This pick concerns me a little bit. I can't until I see it from Jacksonville. I can't pick them to win, so I'm on Miami. But this will be the second time this season that Miami's been the favorite, and the first time they lost. So that's a concern.
Yeah, I mean, Miami has gotten pretty far down both of our boards. They're really not that far away from Jacksonville. I think if this game was actually in Jacksonville, I might be tempted to give it to the Jags actually. But with it being London, it's kind of a funky. There's not really home field. Um, I still like something in me just wants to believe that Miami's a better team. And so, Tua coming back, I don't know if it helps him or hurts him, but I'm going to go with Miami. I would not be surprised if Jacksonville wins though, but I'm sticking with Miami. Next up, we got the Kansas City Chiefs at the Washington Football Team.
So for this one, I have concerns about Kansas City, but offensively, McLaurin, I'm hearing he's questionable, but I'm not reading good things about his prospects for playing this week,
Okay.
and that really concerns me for Washington's offense. And like I said, they don't really have a quarterback. McLaurin kind of, at least you can have a playmaker wide receiver that can make up for that lack of quarterback. And the defense isn't playing good, so I'm going with Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm going with the Chiefs too, even though they're sitting at 2-3. We know that the football team defense has been just not there this year. Um, it's even picking the Chiefs though, it's a low confidence thing. They're on the road. They've had a lot more turnovers this year than they normally do with Mahomes, and I think that this is a good game actually for them to like course correct, because they should have the advantage in this matchup. And if they play a good, disciplined football game, maybe that helps the Chiefs kind of like springboard back to where they really should be going with the season. Okay, so next up, I got the Los Angeles Rams at the New York Giants. Do I even have to ask, James?
No, you don't have to ask. The Giants are a shit show. I'm hearing Daniel Jones is going to play, which I mean he's been playing pretty good this year, but I mean Saquon's out, so they don't have the running game, and I mean the Rams. The way to stop this Rams offense is to continually put pressure and sack the quarterback,
Yeah.
and the Giants have the second fewest sacks um, in the league. So they've in 5 weeks they've only had 8 total sacks, only produced 8 total sacks defensively. So there's one team that's worse than them, and it's not going to happen this week. So I'm on the Rams.
Yeah, I like that stat, and it's a good point. I'm also going with the Rams. I think it's pretty obvious. I don't know anybody who's picking the Giants. The Rams are a legit Super Bowl contender. The Giants, I think the expectation was that they were going to be sort of like a middle of the pack team this year, maybe at best. And the frickin' tons of injuries that they've had has basically put them at the bottom of the barrel for right now. Um, and yeah, even with Daniel Jones playing, yeah, you mentioned Saquon. They got a handful of receivers out. They lost Blake Martinez on the defense. I mean, it just, I hate the Giants, but I'm kind of starting to feel bad for them a little bit. I'll tell you that. All right. So next up, we got Houston at Indianapolis. Who do you like there?
If this game was in Houston, I would pick Houston to win this game.
No shit.
That's how close I see this game is. But I'm going to go with Indy because it's in Indy.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going with Indy as well. I do think that Houston put together a good game against the Patriots last week, but I'm just, for me, it's like, is that because they're maybe playing good, or is that because the Patriots have a rookie quarterback and things are just going to be a little bit streaky? And so, I just looked at on the other side of it. Indy played a great game against Baltimore, sitting at 4-1. Baltimore sitting at 4-1, and I don't know. I just, we talked about Indy having a rough start to the season and things opening up for them. I think that's what's, it's happening now, and so I like Indy here, and I think that, it's interesting you mentioned that about Carson Wentz, and maybe they bench him if they don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think we're going to find out within the next couple of weeks because this is their chance to turn things around. They're primed now to do it. And if they lose a handful of their next couple of games, I could see them doing some shit like that to preserve that first round pick, man. Okay, next up we got the Cincinnati Bengals at the Detroit Lions. Let's go Lions.
Yeah, this isn't the week. I have a question for you. I'm
Yes.
going to give you a stat, and I'm going to ask you for the other receiver that's done this.
Oh
Chase
man.
is the second rookie wide receiver with 450 receiving yards and 5 receiving touchdowns through 5 games. Who's the other one that did this?
Randy Moss.
Exactly, in 1998.
Fuck yeah. I got some skills, some knowledge.
Also, Joe Burrow in this game is seeking to be the first or second year quarterback with multiple touchdown passes in each of the first 6 games. Who is the other quarterback to do it?
Cam Newton.
No. Dan Marino.
Dan Marino. Oh, the Cam thing was all the fucking passing yards he had like
Yeah.
early on. Yeah, no, I was way off there. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
Dan Marino.
So the Lions starting out 0-6 easily.
Okay.
I'm on the Bengals.
So I'm going Detroit here. And, you know, my board obviously says Cincy's better. Um, and, this is just one where I'm going to override and I'm just going to say it's in Detroit. They've played a lot of games really close this year, and they are freaking desperate to get a win. And I think if it doesn't happen here, there is a legitimate chance they could go 0-17. I really think
Mm-hmm.
if it doesn't happen here, I think that they lose motivation, the wheels start to fall off, and it gets really shitty and really dark. And it might still happen, but I'm just gonna hope Detroit gets it and they can salvage something of this season. So I'm gonna give it to them. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens.
So if just projecting out, the Lions go 0-17, Dan Campbell will be, and probably the only person to ever hold this distinction, to be a player on a team that went winless and a
Oh
coach
man,
of a team that went winless.
he was on the 0-16 team.
Yes, he was.
I remember when he played for Detroit. I didn't I didn't realize it was then. But um, oh man, I like him, dude. I like Campbell.
I like him. I like his aggressiveness. I just I saw that
Yeah.
earlier this week and I was like, oh man,
It's so
it
tough
sucks.
for a guy like that because the team is so bad that it's almost like there's no way he's going to dig him out of the hole because at some point, like I'm saying, the wheels do fall off, and then the players just don't give a shit. And no matter how hard he's coaching them, they're gone. And that could carry into next year easily. And then it's like, that's it, man. Like if he can't get them back, it's not going to matter. And so I don't know. I'm bummed out. I like Dan Campbell. I think he's getting a shit fucking assignment trying to coach the Lions, but you know, maybe he'll surprise us and get him ahead of schedule here at some point. Next up, we got the Green Bay Packers at the Chicago Bears.
Uh, I'm just look at my notes, see if I have. Shit. Green Bay's obviously going to win this game. Green Bay has won 9 of the last 10 meetings of against the Bears.
Yeah, I was
That's
gonna
my
say I thought they owned them. Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm going Green Bay as well.
Yeah, I'm with Green Bay. Yeah.
Um, I will say this: for them being 4-1, it's like a little bit of a deceiving 4-1 to me. When I watch them play, the offense is not nearly as good as they've been the last couple years. And we know that their defense is a little bit dicey. And, they still got a new defensive coordinator. They're working that stuff out. Um, Chicago's defense is kicking butt, and they've been doing okay with Justin Fields at quarterback. I just, even with it being on the road, I trust Rodgers. I trust the potential of Green Bay. And like you mentioned, they've owned Chicago. History, the stats, it's all showing that it's in Green Bay's favor. I'm going with them. Next up, we got the Los Angeles Chargers at the Baltimore Ravens.
I'd feel more confident about this if this was in Los Angeles. Um, I'm on the Chargers on this one. I think the Chargers are just a better team. Here, I think that the concerning part is the Chargers allow the most rushing yards per game at 100, almost 158
Mm,
rushing yards per game allowed.
yeah.
But I mean, that's concerning. But I just think the Chargers are better.
Yeah, so, I mean, on my board, I've got the Chargers higher. Um, it's close enough that with this game being in Baltimore, I'm going to give it to Baltimore. Um, both these guys sitting at 4-1, really impressive teams. I do believe, like you're saying, I think the Chargers are better. I just, home field is an advantage this year. Last year it was a nightmare. I do think some of it's changed with COVID. You're getting fans back, and so I think that's enough to swing it in Baltimore's favor. But I could see it going either way. This honestly, this was my hardest game to pick for this week.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, next up we got the Minnesota Vikings at Carolina Panthers.
All right. So we talked about Sam Darnold a little bit earlier and how he kind of regressed to his Jets days last week. I think it really is just like a one-off. Plus, defensively, first of all, I'm hearing Cook. Did you hear Dalvin Cook's out this game as well? I
Oh, I
thought I
didn't
read.
I didn't know that. I thought he was going to be back.
Yeah, I thought I read that. Um, so, which is concerning as well. And defensively, the Panthers allow 4.7 yards per play. The only team that allows less than them is the Bills at 4.25.
Wow, and the Bills are that far ahead. Man,
Yeah.
the fucking Bills.
So
Um,
I'm on Carolina. Especially if what I'm reading is correct or what I've heard is correct that Dalvin Cook's out. I'm trying to verify it right now,
yeah, but
but
you're going Carolina.
yeah,
I'm with you. And, the analysts that I've been reading are saying that this is actually a really good matchup for the Vikings. But I don't trust them. And I don't really care about the analysts. I think that the games in Carolina, Minnesota has just been bad this year. They just barely beat the frickin' Lions at home. In Carolina, on the other hand, they've been playing pretty good. Their defense has looked freaking great. And Darnold, yeah, I get it. He had a bad week, but aside from that, Darnold's actually looked like a real quarterback, and I've been pretty impressed. I did see, McCaffrey going to be out, and it sucks that that's going to keep going on. Hopefully, it doesn't turn into a thing like last year. But either way, I'm going with Carolina in this game, regardless of the Dalvin Cook situation.
yeah, I might
Uh,
have been wrong actually looking at it. It might have been McCaffrey's out that I had heard and conflated them.
hey, no biggie. Okay, so next up we got the Arizona Cardinals at the Cleveland Browns. And this is like probably my favorite game of the week, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll give you that. It's probably my favorite game of the week as well. Uh, I think it's a hard game to pick. I so want to pick Cleveland in this game. I don't want Cleveland to be 3-3, but I think
Yeah.
Arizona's playing too good, and so I'm gonna continue to roll with the Cardinals on this
Yeah,
one.
I'm going with Arizona as well. And this was another game that was tough for me to pick, with it being in Cleveland in particular. I like both these teams a lot. Ultimately, it came down to, Chubb's going to be out, and Arizona's the top team on my board, and so, I'm just going to defer to them as my top team until they prove me otherwise. So, uh, I like Arizona here. Next up, we got the Las Vegas Raiders at the Denver Broncos.
This one here, like I don't like I what I don't like about Vegas is all the turmoil that's going on there, and I mean Mile High's hard to play in. Um, I think there's a chance the Raiders could win because of the galvanizing the locker room, but I'm gonna go with Denver.
Okay. So I'm going with Denver here as well. Another tough game to pick, to be honest. There was a handful of them this week. Like we talked about earlier, the Raiders, they have a couple big wins, but those were earlier in the season, and now lately they're starting to lose, just like they did with Chicago, and it's more like the Raiders I was expecting. And so the Gruden thing definitely puts it in turmoil. They could galvanize, but I'm going with Denver here, who honestly, Denver's been equally as streaky, but at least it's in Denver, and so I'm going to give them the edge in this one. Next up, we got the Dallas Cowboys at the New England Patriots.
So it's probably gonna be an unpopular pick, but just looking at this game, looking at how the Patriots are playing, um, looking at I want to check one thing on this. I just for some reason I see the Patriots winning this game. The Patriots are kind of that gritty team that and the Cowboys could have a little bit of a letdown after dismantling the Giants. So I'm gonna go with the New England Patriots.
Okay. No, hey, nothing wrong with, making an unpopular pick. They're your picks. I'm going Dallas. I think they've got an elite offense. I think New England, on the other hand, is still figuring things out with Mac Jones. That's going to take time. Obviously, he's a rookie. Both these defenses are respectable, but even with it being on the road, I just think Dallas's offense is that freaking good this year. It would be hard for the Patriots to keep up with them and hard to slow them down. And so I'm going Dallas in this one. Next up, we got the Seattle Seahawks at the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So on this one, if Russ wasn't hurt, I would definitely be picking Seattle on it. I really still want to pick Seattle for this game because I just think the Steelers are a shitty team. But I can't trust Geno Smith to go into Pittsburgh and win the game.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
with you.
yeah, I just can't trust Geno Smith.
Yeah, I'm going Pittsburgh as well. Same reasons. Pittsburgh definitely looks like dog shit, but they're at home, and it's tough. Seattle backup quarterback on the road. Doesn't matter if the dude's a vet. I just think it's a tough game, so I'm giving it to Pittsburgh. Next up, we got Buffalo at Tennessee. Which is supposedly a revenge game for Buffalo. I don't know what all that's about. I didn't read it. I just saw a little headline about it, and it's like, okay.
What from the Music City Miracle?
I I don't
What
know.
was that, like 20 years ago?
I think it was something about a Derrick Henry stiff arm. So somebody must have got embarrassed on that Buffalo defense last year.
I I don't fucking know. I can't trust Tennessee. They're playing too inconsistently. Buffalo's playing too good. I actually see Buffalo limiting Henry to under 100 yards this game,
That could
which
happen.
I mean, Buffalo's defense is just playing that good,
Yeah,
and I mean, I'm on Buffalo for the game.
I'm with you, man. I'm going Buffalo here. Um, I just think they have the clear advantage. They're like electric on offense, and their defense is a top unit right now. And so, yeah, Buffalo. So that's it for this week. Let's kick it to next Thursday, which is Denver at Cleveland. Who do you like there?
So the next week's games, this probably the Thursday night game is probably the second best game of the week, just slightly behind the Bengals Ravens game, which should be a primetime game. It should be in isolation, but anyways, um, Denver's just not quite there. I think
Yeah,
if Denver had a quarterback, again, I keep saying this, if they had a quarterback, I might feel differently, but I'm going to be on Cleveland.
yeah. I'm with you, unless there's some injuries or something between now and then. I'm sticking with Cleveland. It's just a no-brainer to me. Cleveland, they're a slow and steady team, and in a game like this, they're just going to slowly pull away as the game goes on. It's just how I see it playing out. Denver, if they play their best, they could keep it interesting. I think the odds are heavily in Cleveland's favor. So, okay, those are the Week 6 game picks. Let's move it on over to the question of the week. And this one, we kind of talked about it earlier, but I guess let's talk about Kansas City. And, my question is the situation in KC more or less an anomaly of sorts, or do they have bigger problems? And I think it's an anomaly. I think that, we talked about two of those games, against very good opponents with Buffalo and the Chargers. I think the turnovers and the poor defensive play, um, the turnovers they can correct. The defense, I'm not sure is easy of a fix. I think they can turn it around, but I don't think that they're that like Super Bowl contender that everybody thought they were. Um, you know, they could definitely make a playoff run. Anything can happen, but I mean they're clearly behind like Buffalo, Los Angeles, a number of teams now, in my opinion, on my board. And what do you think, man?
So if it was just one side of the ball, was an issue, I would say is more of an anomaly. But I'm seeing issues on both sides of the ball with them. I think teams are learning how to defend Patrick Mahomes, and he's got to adjust his game, and he's got to figure out how to adjust his game. So I think there's legitimate concern with Kansas City right now. Um, is they can turn it around, like you said, the turnovers they can learn how to limit those. Patrick Mahomes can learn how to play against defenses that basically what defenses are doing against him is not blitzing him,
Yeah.
just sending forward and playing coverage, and then you have injuries like Edwards Hilaire's on IR now, and I don't know how, like, so he's out till at least week 10. You have one of the Williams is Daryl, I think it is, or is it the other one?
I think they got one of them's in Chicago now, right? So, Daryl and Damien, I forget which one they
Yeah,
got, but yeah.
yeah, I forget which one's on Kansas City. Like and he can, I mean, the Williams, he can still run the ball. Um, so, but I don't see the dynamic aspect of that offense anymore.
No.
It's like teams have figured it out, and that offense isn't as dynamic as it has been.
Yeah, they need
Uh,
to they just need to crush a team for me to feel good about them again. And it needs to be both ways where not only do they put up like fucking 40 points, they need to like hold a team to like less than 10 and like show that their defense actually has some life in them still.
Daryl is the one they have.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate your assessment there, James. And I'd just like to say for anybody who's still watching, you are welcome to answer our question of the week. Similar to Name That Stadium, hit us up in the comments section. Let us know what you think. James, that's all I got for tonight, man. You got any closing thoughts?
No, I think I hit about everything I had.
Okie dokie. Well, hey, man, it was fun. I'll catch you later.
All right, sounds good.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.